Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and this is our Marathon of Marriage series, part 7, the final installment of our special edition series, where we're having special couples come aboard to share a little bit about their journey in marriage with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting, just relatable couples doing everyday things just like all married couples do, but understanding the importance of hanging in there even in the midst of storms, even in the midst of challenges, versus kind of throwing in the towel unnecessarily when it's more important to just, again, to try to work through your challenging moments and keep that marriage strong and keep that marriage lasting for the length of time that it was God intended for it to be. So with that said, I have a wonderful couple with us this evening. I had the pleasure of connecting them just recently through a mutual friend of ours, who had the opportunity to have this couple on his show. And he immediately reached out to me after the show, spoke very highly of this couple, just the power in their marriage, the strength, the energy, the just the resiliency that's present. And this is exactly what we wanted to have a part of this particular Marathon of Marriage series. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen. I'm super excited to learn more about this couple, and I'm glad that they took time out of their busy schedule to hang out with us. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, allow me the pleasure to introduce to you Chad and Lanell Osinga. Chad and Lanell, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, it is a blessing and our pleasure.
That's right.
All right, all right. Well, before we jump into our segment for this evening, our segments for this evening, I do want to give you all an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself, kind of general introduction, if you will, who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give our audience a taste of who is Chad and Lanell Osinga.
Want to go first?
Well, he did say your name first, but I mean, I don't mind. So I'm Lanell Osinga. I am a mom of four. I'm a wife of almost 20 years, best friend of almost 28 years. I stay at home. I take care of my family. We have three dogs. Well, we have two dogs and a grand dog, and we take care of. And you know what? I'm just blessed. Every single day I wake up, I am blessed.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Well, I'm a
awesome.
husband. The only thing's different is my first name, and that's Chad. We coach marriages and relationships, but our main focus is really our family and what we're building here at home. That's our life is these four kids, what's going on with them, and how we all sharpen each other to try to be the best we can be every single day, just 1% better every day, and that's the goal of our family, and we enjoy helping them and whoever else crosses our path. If we can, help them and be a positive influence, then we try to do that as often as possible.
Awesome, awesome. And of course, the two of you are the host of your own show as well, your My
Oh,
Bulletproof
I know, right?
Marriages.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
that
so
too.
funny because we always we do. We have the show. It's behind us. Hello, we're on it every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the E360 TV network. But yet we sit here and we don't talk about it as much.
Yeah,
And the reason I'll say this real quick. The reason that we don't always bring it up is because we just believe in whatever path whoever's supposed to find us and whoever we're supposed to find, we'll just meet.
they will.
It will come. There's nothing we have to do. So at the end of the day, whether we need to be your marriage coach through My Bulletproof Marriages or we just have a random conversation on the street and we just happen to meet, that's chatting. That's
We,
chatting
we've
Liddell.
we've literally helped people in the hospital. We checked in. I checked in to the hospital to get help, and I'm ended up helping neurologists and everybody else with their relationships. So that's just kind of the vibe. But we like it. We like being able to help where we can and be a blessing. So
That's right.
Well, I think what makes what you do so special, and like I said, I'm just, of course, recently becoming familiar with you, is just the fact that you don't come into doing a show like that, giving coaching advice like that because you're pretending, if you will, of being perfect and having it all figured out. And I think that's so important when married couples can get counsel, can get godly advice, some gems, if you will, from people like yourselves who can be very relatable, can keep it real and raw, but at the same time provide some sound advice, some things that have worked for you, or things that you know of, but perhaps have worked for others that will allow married couples to be able to again to survive the turbulence, the storms, the challenges that come along with marriage, and that's why we've titled this series, the Marathon of Marriage, because that's exactly what it is. Marriage is a marathon, and there's going to be some days where I don't like you too much today. We may still always, be in love with one another. We, and would do anything for one another. But sometimes we just don't like each other. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye. But we have to know how to navigate through those moments when such situations arise. So again, I'm super excited to learn more about your journey, and I'm already expecting that not only myself but my listeners will be blessed as you share more about your marriage journey. So, with that said, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this thing, and I want to start off with, I'm a firm believer when we talking about our journeys, our stories. I always like to go back to the beginnings, and so even in this special marriage series, that's exactly what we're going to do here. And my first question to you would be, if you would share, how did the two of you meet? And what was it about one another that let you know what, I think I want to be with this individual for the long haul. This is the one. And I don't care who start, whichever one you want to start. Whoever starts, then the other one you can fact check to see if the story is right.
Well,
But
she's an encyclopedia by herself, so she'll get me. But before I get started, I want to say something. You hit something that I think needs to be emphasized, and that's getting your information from people who have experienced hardship and overcome that hardship in whatever area, whether it's marriage, business, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're pursuing in your life, you want to get it from somebody who's got it the hard way, who's had to figure it out, and those are the people that can come to you, one, with some understanding, right? Because that's we're in a day and age of coaches, and everybody's online trying to sell something, and that's cool. But a lot of times what they're saying doesn't match up to what they've done. And so it's really good to find experience and find people that are where you want to be in that relationship or whatever that endeavor is. So I just wanted to highlight that because I think what you said there needs to be reiterated, because it's super important when you're getting information to get it from the right sources. That said, as we already introduced ourselves, we have been together for 28 years, and we met. She was 14, I was 15. We are from a very small town in Virginia called Waynesboro, Virginia. I'm from actually Stuart Straff, which is even smaller and a lot more cows, and she's from what we consider a city, which was Waynesboro. And
City.
we both, we have crazy stories of how all of that, and I'll try to keep it short, but basically I was in trouble. My home was raided when I was 14. My mom was sent to federal prison. I was sent to family in a different state. There were some issues with that, and I ended up running away on my own from Oklahoma, making it back to Virginia. But when I did, they arrested me and forced me to go to a different school, which is how I met this beautiful thing. So a lot of times our struggle is the very blessing that we need in our life. It's the very thing that creates the change and the opportunities that we really wanted in our life. And sometimes we overlook that. But we meet, and it was a crazy time because the year prior to that, this small little town had race riots in our school. All right, I'm talking police, tear gas, and students. Something you would think like you would get in New York or some of these bigger towns or states, but in this little podunk town, they're over here tear gassing kids, and things are crazy. So I go to school, and she was kind of very popular, and a lot of guys liked her, and she wouldn't date anybody. And then here I come, and I'm white, and she gives me the time of day. And it was just friendship at first, but when you're kids, you don't see it. You don't see the things the way they really are. And so people thought we had this love relationship, and it caused a lot of issues, a lot of anger. And we finally broke up because I was on probation, and she didn't want me to go back to jail. And so we broke up, but we just stayed connected. And around 18, we reconnected again. And it's just one of those things like, you know how there's just this person who just has this it factor, and no matter what happens, they're just always there. They show up, random phone calls, bump them into a line somewhere, just And that was like me and her. We just couldn't get out of each other's lives. Even when we weren't trying to be in each other's lives, we found a way to somehow cross paths. And I think for me, that was, I just knew. I knew that she was different and I wanted to be with her. And so, you know, 18, we made it official. And we've been kind of doing life together since then. And we finally got married in 2004. And we've been married for 19 years. We'll hit 20 years this December. And we're excited about it. You know, we have 4 beautiful kids. We have kids that have special needs. We have 3 special need kids, and they all have different issues that they have. And, you know, all of it has created the relationship that we now have. Going through it's a different story, but, you know, I'm thankful for all the ups and downs. But that's basically how we met. I ended up joining the Army about a year after we got married, and the rest is history. We joined the military, and that ship sailed, and we just started doing life together.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So Lanell,
I
you get to fact check it. You
well,
get to add
he
the
is
little details he left out.
no,
I probably did.
he no, he's correct. He's right. We did. I was just his friend. I actually was trying to hook him up. The first time we talked, I was trying to hook him up with like
Oh yeah.
several chicks. I was like, I look. They into you? Which one you want?
It's the new guy
Redhead,
effect.
blonde hair. What you want? Because I got you. And he was just like, no, thank you. And I was like, what? Like, that's not typical for a teenage boy to be like, no, thank you, and you can have whichever flavor you like. So I was very much like, what's up with him? And then we just started talking, and then the more I learned about his circumstance, what he was going through in his own family, it made me understand a little bit more why he was so quiet, right? Why he was there, and why he needed to stay out of trouble. I found myself attracted to the inner person,
Mhm.
not the outer person that was showing up every single day. Like, and I love that about him. Like everybody else that I had dated previously, not at 14 you should date. I just want to throw that out there if anybody's watching. It's too young. But what I'll say is previously when I dated, I was always looking for like the package that showed up in front of me, right? And when he showed up, he was very just different. He just made me feel at peace and protected. And he made me feel like I could do anything and that I could say anything and then there was no judgment and I could be just me. And that was pure, and I didn't have that a lot. So therefore, for me, I wanted to be able to, stay around somebody that was so pure and made me
Love
feel
that.
really pure. So that's what made me want to be with him.
That's really awesome. I mean, I think what I love from what you just said, and as you stated, we don't have a lot of that these days. Whether we're talking about young people or just even in our adulthood, where we're meeting people to grow to love them for what they are on the inside.
Yeah.
Because again, when we think about the concept of marriage and that process, yeah, we could both be, the right body shape, right looks, and all those things, right out the gate. And we everybody might look at us and say, "Oh, you're just a beautiful couple," and all of that. But as you know, as time goes on, whether it's just natural aging process or health concerns or anything like that, things things shift, things fade,
Yes. Yes.
and so or just simply the newness of it all wears off. And
Hmm.
if you don't have anything outside of just I think he's cute or she's cute, if that was all you had, and the newness kind of dies down and you haven't really had a chance to fall in love or embrace what they are on the inside, you're kind of setting yourself up for this relationship not lasting long. And especially if you made the leap of faith into actually taking into a marriage, how does it last when you never really got a chance to know the person, but was only caught up in again what they look like or what they had or things like that. So I appreciate you pointing that out because I think that's an important thing that we need to kind of get back to, is getting to know and
Yeah,
understand and
for sure.
and
100%.
and connect with people for who they are on the inside. And I think the other thing that I really liked, and you both kind of hit on that. A lot of times when you talk about particularly interracial couples, it's not uncommon for, one or both people involved in a relationship to talk about, I don't see color. I don't see, I didn't hear you two say that. And I thought that was important. Like you didn't ignore the fact that she's black. You didn't ignore the fact that he's white.
Right.
Yeah,
You
I
you
mean, this
you,
is
you
yeah,
yeah, she's a sister and he's white. And I
yeah,
recognize
and
that. I'm not
Right.
ignoring that. I'm not trying to pretend that it doesn't exist or anything like
Correct.
that. But at the end of the
there are
day,
differences.
we connected because of who they were on each other was on the inside, and that was what the connection was. It wasn't a thing
Yeah,
of
and
if you understand what I'm saying. I just because a lot of times we get caught up in that. Well, I don't,
that, that
people kind of justify being connected with one another where they're friends or in a relationship. Well, I don't see color. Well, that's actually not a compliment. I want you to recognize that
Right.
I am who I am. Recognize my background. Recognize. I don't want you to
Yes.
say it like as if that means something special because you say you don't see that. Then you don't see me.
Right.
I need you to see me, but then I also
Right.
need to know that you desired, in this case, desire to connect with me, to be in relationship with me because of who I am ultimately on the inside, that I'm not just a trend, a fad in the moment just to see what it's like to be
right,
with
Yes.
somebody of another
100%.
background or what have you. And so I saw the natural connection in hearing the two of you talk about the way you met. And that's why I'm highlighting that because I think it's so critical. Nothing against people from different ethnicities connecting, but are you connecting for the right reasons? Are you connecting for who the
Well,
person is
Y-
and not just the trend of the week or
well, and that's something that
or I just had the curiosity in the moment type of thing.
Correct.
So
well that's something that we hit on a lot
Yep.
is why are you together? Why?
mhm,
You're hitting something that's actually a lot deeper than what most people want to accept it as.
Hmm.
We do things for social status. We do things for financial reasons. We do things for security. These are all of these external factors of why we pick the mate that we do, and there's other reasons, right? Our upbringing, the subconscious factor that we could throw into this mix. If you saw a certain type of man or woman throughout your life, you most likely will be attracted to somewhere in that ballpark, right? Not all the time, but it's a higher percentage that is, right? That's why patterns keep repeating themselves in and through families, right? And we get to this point where you're talking about seeing something that the one thing that doesn't fade, right? Because all of this other stuff, it can't last. It's all
mhm,
superficial at the end of the day. Your cars, they're going to come and go. Money's going to come and go. Your looks are going to fade. Things are going to happen throughout your life. My God, if anybody can tell you about how life just happens to you and you're just stuck with your hands up like, I don't know what to do right now. That is going to happen throughout the course of your life.
Hmm.
Now you have another person that you're having to do this with, right?
Hmm.
And if you don't have those right reasons for being in this, you're going to quit when it breaks down, when the things fade, when the money disappears, when the security doesn't seem to be there, whatever that reason was. Okay, next popular guy that makes you look better, you'll jump to them. And these
mhm,
are all these little things that people get caught into
Hmm.
initially, and then they keep rocking with it and wondering why they're missing out,
Hmm.
and
So miserable.
you're talking about finding the real about this other person. Who are they? And the other thing I want to point out is we talk about understanding. A lot of marriage is understanding each other. If you can understand why, the whys behind why, okay, why does my wife's hair so important to her? I'm white, right? I don't have these issues, okay? I didn't grow up having to be concerned with that. She has to. So having understanding there, it really does bypass a lot of things that stop other couples, right? Because okay, I get it. I understand why you have to do this or why it takes you a little
Hmm.
long, and so now you can begin to factor in these little reasons of why they move the way they move, and now we can start making our crazy work together. right?
And then you start to
Mm-hmm.
really start to appreciate and love your partner even more, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
now you're like, oh, I see. I didn't know that he liked my locks, right? He had no clue about locks, and so just the process of watching me get locks after all these years, really just being a part of my whole journey in my hair period since he's been with me at 14. Right now I'm in my 40s, and he's like, wow, just the journey of seeing it and understanding of it. He wasn't raised with black women, so he has no idea, right? But now being with me and then trying to understand me, now he falls in love with me even more because this is a part of me.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the piece that people, they just fail to see. They're just in that moment and they're not thinking like, okay, wait, I've known you since you were 15 and eventually you're going to get grays, right? Okay. And you're not going to always have a six pack. And, like you don't think about those things when
Right.
you're younger all the time, but you should if you really want to be involved with this person. Why waste your energy and your time? That's what I never
Marry the
understood that
person
too.
that's going to make you happy when you're 70, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
look for the person that can make you happy when you're 70 and 80, right? Like not this right here right now stuff. And if we can start catching the long game, I
Mm-hmm.
think we will pick the right people, right? And then now the next thing is the timing because like I knew I wanted to marry Lanell and I knew that she was the one for me. Like I just had this knowing. But where I missed it was the timing. Just because she's the right person doesn't mean it's the right time. So there's another factor. A lot of times we like to rush things. Well, hold on. My somebody really important to me when I was a kid told me if it's a good deal today, it'll be a good deal tomorrow. Wait,
Mm-hmm.
wait, be cool. Just be calm. And as a kid, that's very hard. As a kid, we just want to jump in there and I'm in love. I'm passionate. I know how I feel right now, right? And so we go into this thing wet behind the ears, ignoring all wisdom, and we usually pay the price for that somewhere down the road. So just being patient and waiting for the right time to move forward into marriage is also really important because a lot of the issues that we face in marriage can be worked out in the dating process if we're intentional in that section of time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so valuable about highlighting the need to have patience. Don't be in such a rush. And as you stated, a lot of stuff can be worked out in the dating process. And the stuff that we're talking about working out is really goes back to what you started off with at the top of the show was about getting the information, like getting to learn and know about one another. So when we talk about the subject of things like, premarital counseling and
Mm-hmm.
asking the right questions up front, the difficult questions, that's
Yes.
necessary. And I know you don't, a lot of times we don't want to ask because we're afraid that that person might say something that is not going to sit well with us. And we don't want to hear that. We just want to get caught up in the, like you said, in the exterior of it all. But we need to have those tough conversations. We need to know where we stand because that's going to be an indicator of how we're going to process should we face those challenges in the mix of our marriage. Or if we're going into the marriage with some things right out the gate that we need to know about that we can't just blatantly ignore as if it's not there. No, you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to put you in a better position to be able to work through that
Right.
situation. Even down to, and of course, a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but even down to the subject matter of how God is going to be a part of your marriage.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
No, yeah.
That's very
are
important.
you going into that thing equally yoked? We hear it all the time, whether you're a
Right.
believer or not, but if you don't pay attention to that and don't embrace it for the truth that it is, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. Because if you think you can walk into a marriage, I don't care how, whatever you think you had going on going into that marriage, if you think you can step into that marriage and leave God out of the equation, that is not a marriage that's destined to last. And even if it does last, it's a marriage that will last with unnecessary, pressures and
Mm-hmm.
stresses that you didn't have to have because you're trying to, as you said earlier, Lanell, you're trying to take two crazy people, in their lives and put them together and expect it crazy and crazy to make some sanity out of that. We're just
Right.
not equipped to do that on our own strength. We have to have an authority, a power that's bigger than us to be in the mix of that, to
Yeah, there
connect
has
with
to be
us
an
in that.
anchor.
If we don't have that, it's like we're going in with blinders and
Yes.
expecting, having unrealistic expectations for a long lasting marriage, which is why, unfortunately, a lot of marriages do end prematurely because they didn't start off right.
Yeah,
They
and you know
went
Yeah.
what?
in
And
You are
without
so right.
including,
it
yeah.
only gets worse once you
Yeah.
get married. So like whatever the problem is when you're dating, right? Like let's say your boyfriend likes to go out with his friends, but he doesn't come home till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, smelling like alcohol, whatever, right? Maybe he only does it once or twice on a week. 10 years from now, do you think that's going to get better or worse? Especially if things don't go according to the way that he wants them to go, right? Financially, whatever else in his life, right? That's going to be his go-to to cope with whatever those struggles are. So now what was once or twice now is going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 times a night, a week. And now, you know, like you were saying, you're starting these problems. But if you would just be patient in the beginning, time tells everything. It reveals everything,
it
man.
does.
Like there were things about each other we just didn't even know until years down the. I mean, and look, marriage is a marathon, man. I like how you're calling this a marathon because it really is. There is no end point to this.
Right.
It's one section at a time, right? And each section has its own individual challenges and ups and, you know, things that you're going to remember. And you're going to have to do this together. So you want to pick somebody that you want to go on this marathon with, right? Somebody that you can choose. Because here's the thing. You said something in the very beginning about love. Love is a decision. And that's what we tell everybody. There are going to be times up and down this road of marriage that y'all are not going to see eye to eye. You're not going to agree. Especially in the beginning, there might be fights that last 3, 4, 6 days, a week, 2 weeks. So
months.
We've had fights in the beginning where we were
months.
fighting for 30, 45 days, not talking to each other. House, you could break ice with the tension that was in our home, right? And that is some of the things that begin to take place because now you're stuck in this situation with this one person. You sleep beside them, you eat with them, you pay bills with them, there is no space. Not anymore, right? And so it intensifies the little things that once you could have overlooked. Maybe when you were dating, you got to go home, cool off, watch your favorite show with your parents. Well, now things are different, right? You go in the other room, close the door, and 5 minutes later, he's opening the door, right, wanting to talk to you, and you don't want to talk, right? Like, these are all real situations they're like following. You're like, I can't get a break, right? This is reality, and so you want to, in the beginning, you want to find somebody that you will choose even on your worst day.
Amen. Right? Amen.
Choose them. Love is a choice.
Yes.
You choose to love them. You choose to be married every day.
That's right.
It's not about a ring. It's about your decision every single day. Every moment. Every moment is a decision, and we can choose how that looks. A lot of us don't want to accept the fact that we have that power, but we do. And it wasn't until we realized that our marriage started to change.
It's awesome. And I love how you said, like, I need to know that this is somebody that's going to ride with me when I'm at my worst, when I'm at my rock. Because if you can ride with me then, as I know you're going to ride with me when everything is good, when it's flowing. Right. When I'm at my rock bottom, when I'm at my darkest moments, my lowest of lows, can I count on you? You know, will you be there for me, or will you abandon me? Will you dismiss me? You know, you need to know that, and you need to have that confidence in you going into the marriage that this is who you. You know, we're not talking about when such moments arise that they'll be easy, but I still got to know that you're not going to be ready to run the moment there's a sign of trouble, whether it's in the money, whether it's in the health, whether it's in whatever. Right. I need to know that you're still here with me, that you're not just sometimey, you know, and again, but then we go back to the whole presence of God in the marriage, because God's feeling the same way. Don't just conclude me when it's convenient and then ignore me when everything is quote unquote okay. Right. You need to have me there in the good, the bad, and everything in between, because I can help you navigate through that in ways that you can't in your own strength, in your own abilities. Because again, we two crazy people, as Lanell said, we two crazy people that came together with our messy stuff and all our baggage and all of that. You know, trying to make this thing work. That's hard to have two raggedy, crazy folks together trying to make something work. And you know, that's not easy.
It's
yeah.
not. And you think about it, we were kids. I was 21 when I got married, and it was the first time I ever moved out of my parents' house. I left for my honeymoon and went to our apartment, and I was like, "Oh, this is oh wait, I
This
don't
is
want to do
real.
this. I don't know. This is not what
This
I
is
signed. I don't want.
real.
I didn't. Did I sign up for this?
Mm.
Like, hold up. I
No, he
got to
hit.
really go do all of this. Like, this is a lie. I didn't. I really. You really need to. I love, like you said, be patient because that would have really helped us in the
Yeah.
long run. You know what I'm saying? We know we loved each other for sure. We know we both wanted to get married. We knew that our future together would be very bright and strong. We knew that. We knew that we were just this team, right? That just it didn't matter who was against us. We just had each other. It was like it was Chad
Mm-hmm.
and Linnell against everybody. Our
It
whole
still is.
and it is, and my whole family knew that. They like to this day still
Still
call us
is.
Bonnie and Clyde. They're like besides like murdering people and then Robin, they were like, you guys are Bonnie and Clyde. I'm like, it's always been us. He is my ride or die. Like it
But
doesn't matter what's happened in our life, even when we dated, and like he said, even in our worst moments with like other family members, excuse me, we both called on each other. Even when we split up in our relationship, even in our relationship, he was still the first person I always called. I
Mm.
always picked the phone and called him, even when we weren't together like that. Like, hey, this was going on. And so, why wouldn't I want to marry, right? The person I'm
your
Right.
always
best
gonna
friend.
call. I'm gonna marry this person.
Yeah.
I'm no matter what, we're gonna get through this. And
Yeah.
I always said to him, like, even in our worst moments at the beginning of our relationship, I had said to him, like, no matter what, you are my friend.
Yeah.
Like, I would
Mm.
rather divorce you and us just remain best friends than us not be friends at all. Like I would
Yeah.
rather have him as my best friend than not have him as my husband. And I'd wanted it to when we were at our worst and talking about divorce and it was just ugly and a mess. It was
Oh
like
man.
hell. It really was. I am not gonna
It was.
sugarcoat
It
this.
was.
It was
Yeah.
bad. It was bad. It was bad. But even then I still would have chose him.
But I want to, because I also want to say this. You talking about putting God in the relationship, and that was something that we didn't do well in
Mm-mm.
the beginning. Because here's the thing: when you're upset, you're into these feelings and these emotions, and they lie to us, man. Our mind lies to us.
Mm-hmm.
You need an anchor that can help you see things in the big picture, right? Not just from the feeling, right? Because if you are always reacting from your feelings, you're going to look like what we did, which was a hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in the front yard, embarrassing ourselves with neighbors. We lived in the projects, man. Like so, everybody's just eating popcorn, watching our mess, right? And we're out in the middle of and, I mean, on army bases, on the army base, right? We're outside throwing banana pudding at each other, like just insane stuff because we neglected the foundation.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can, this is why it's so important to wait because then you can form and establish a strong foundation, a building that is erected from a strong foundation. It will last the winds and the weather and all the crazy. It's not that the crazy doesn't happen. It's strong
Right.
enough to withstand it. It's strong
At
enough
that
to
point.
move. It can budge. It can move a little bit. I like the palm tree scenario, right? Where we're flexible, right? We just kind of go with it. And because we can go with life and the ups and the downs, it never breaks us. But that comes from our root system, it's still a foundation. And we had to go back and restore that foundation before we could really start building the life that we wanted together. And so I think what you're saying is really important. What we're all saying is really important. And that's slowing down, building that foundation, putting God in there, anchoring yourself to something that can give you the right perspective so you can make godly and right decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that said, I want to kind of build on this a little bit more because, as you stated, as we go through marriage and we're trying to figure it all out, obviously there's going to be some good experiences, but then there are going to also be some storms that come along the way. Sometimes they happen right out the gate. Sometimes they kind of come, a little bit as the honeymoon phase, if you will, kind of dies down, and the reality of life and marriage and the marathon of it kicks in. And in the midst of those experiences, every now and then, some of those storms, if you will, are so intense that we have questions, we have doubts, we have fears. Like, how are we going to overcome this? This is more than just a random argument that we have for a few minutes and we just make up and everything is good. Every now and then, we get hit with some really heavy stuff that really test the marriage, the strength of the marriage, the stability of the marriage. And so, if you would, Share with us about a time when you found yourself facing a challenging situation in the marriage where you didn't know how you all were going to get through this. It was really burdensome. It was really heavy. You had fears. You had anxious stress. All of the negative energies that were there. Obviously, you're here today. We know going strong, heading up on year 20. So we know you made it through. But maybe at the time you weren't quite sure. You weren't even thinking about 20 being in the picture at that time because of what you were going through. If you would kind of walk us through what that experience is, what that experience was like for you in the story that you're going to share, and what was kind of the turning point where you were able to begin to see some light and coming up out of that.
I think that right out the gate, we hit turbulence.
Yeah, we did.
Our honeymoon phase was really short.
Really
Okay,
short.
so reality hit Lanell on the ride back. So we go for our honeymoon to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It was great, right? We had a great time. We were vibing, having a good. She's pregnant, during the honeymoon with our second child, and we're living it up, right? By the time when I say when we got back into our town, it was like somebody reprogrammed Lanell, and I got the worst version of her I had ever seen in my life, right? Like the woman that I thought I knew was not present. Okay,
I'm sorry.
and she went ham on me, and I was lost, right? Because I'm still on cloud nine. I married this woman. I'm happy, right? Everything's working out the way I thought, and she's throwing right hooks, and I'm like, I thought that we wanted to be here too, right? And what I think is crazy about this is because that kind of it never subsided for us.
Nope.
We didn't know how to cope with it. And here's why what we just said prior is so important.
Come on.
So we get hit with this turbulence. And I didn't know how to respond. She didn't know how to respond. She didn't know what was going on with her, much less be able to explain to me what was going on with her, right? And this is the power of communication also, and why it's important to know who you are and to work on yourself first, right? Before you start trying to work on a whole relationship, you better get yourself right first, because there's a lot of self-accountability that goes into this for a prospering relationship.
Come on.
Okay, you have to be willing to look at your own mess. You have to be willing to call yourself out and accept when you're wrong and out of pocket, right? But I didn't know how to do these things.
And none of those things were me, just so we're clear.
Okay.
I was not apologetic.
Oh, yeah.
I was not taking responsibility for anything that I was causing in the house. Accountable for what I know.
So I, not knowing, I had this dream of joining the military.
Yeah.
My grandfather fought in World War II, and I was going to be like him, right? So I was like, all right, this is a hellhole. I need to somehow find a way out. This looks like a easy way out. And boy, was I wrong, okay? So I joined the military, and I love the military. I stayed in. I retired from the military, but in the beginning, it was not good, because I entered a situation with a whole bunch of other kids that were separated from their homes for the first time, some of them freshly married, all of us drinking and doing things that we shouldn't be doing, because that's the vibe in the military. Like, everybody drinks. That's just what it is, right? And you don't know how slippery that road is. Next thing you know, we're fighting every day.
Yep.
We're fighting for things we don't even know why we're fighting. And when we look back, it's stupid. Over a door being left open, or a window, or who ate the last yo-yo, or whatever, right? Like, just retarded things. And we're sitting here just flipping out on each other. And divorce crept in there, and then it began to stay. And we were like, maybe maybe we can't do this. We're, 2 years into this at that point?
The first separation?
Yeah. Like
the first
years.
separation.
Yeah, like 2 years, right? 2 years. And we don't know, man. Like, we're like, man, we made the worst mistake ever. This cannot work. This cannot last. I ended up going to Iraq for 15 months, and we separate. We're like, all right, this is our opportunity. In the state of Virginia, you have to be separated for a year in order to have a divorce. This will be our year, right? Too easy. And I come back on leave. I see her. We have a good moment. She gets pregnant. So now I'm like, okay, well, all right. So now we have another kid coming, and I'm like, all right, but we're still not We're still not there.
Yeah. We've always been great at that. Don't play. Okay, let me tell you something. That connection right there, that ain't ever gone.
Yeah, we ain't never had
We
a
ain't never
problem
had an
with
issue
that
in that
part.
issue.
But
So we don't have a
but
problem in that
well,
room.
Never.
shortly after that, I was actually about to redeploy to Afghanistan. Our daughter had a stroke, and the reason I'm highlighting this is because we didn't have a way out up until this point. It seemed like we got sucked into this black hole of chaos. Okay, from the time that we got back from that honeymoon up until my daughter having a stroke, it was just crazy. It was just pure craziness, right? And we were unhappy. Not Here's the thing that we realized: we blamed each other, but we were unhappy in here.
Yes.
There was a lot of things that we never dealt with in here.
Yep.
And the thing about relationships is your partner becomes a mirror. They are just showing you what you are. That's it. That's it. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Amen.
That is a very hard pill to swallow, but it is absolute truth. And the reason I can tell you it's truth is because when I changed, she did not. That was also a fight. When I was trying to be a better me, she didn't like it because she was comfortable where she was, right? And she was like, yeah, I don't know about that, right? But when I changed and I stayed for the right reasons, and I was doing it for me. I was doing it for peace within myself. Not to save my marriage, not for my kids, for me. All of a sudden, the entire house shifted, right? I began to shift, and it's like having a temperature gauge in your house, right? When the door is left open, what happens? The AC kicks on and it regulates it to that temperature. As I changed, it was like I switched the thermostat in the entire house. And the occupants in that home, over time, they get used to that temperature. And we all adjust, right? And a lot of times we don't even know that we're adjusting, okay? I didn't understand that my self-work would impact them more than me saying something to them. I didn't have to tell my kids to change. I didn't have to even ask her. I mean, we had our moments, but then once I let it go and I was like, all right, hey, you do you. She started seeing the peace that I had, and then she began to pursue that peace. And next thing you know, we're in a phenomenal place that just kept getting sweeter and sweeter. But it started with this. And here with me, I was a mess, man. And all she was doing was showing me. That was it, right? All the anger, all the frustration, all the things I never dealt with as a kid and growing up and in the military, all of these things that just accumulated. And I just stuffed them away and, tried to sometimes drink them away or work them out in the gym. Whatever you do to try to release those demons, if you're not facing them, they're not being dealt with. And that's what I'll tell you. And they're going to come out, especially in your relationship.
Yep.
Wow. Well, I appreciate your transparency first off and sharing that. And I just love the fact that you highlighted the importance of dealing with self. Because a lot of times, again, we miss that. We get into conflicts with one another as husband and wife, and we're so quick to want to blame the other person. We talk about what they're not doing, where their flaws are, where their shortcomings are. And when in fact it needs to start with us. And so I appreciate, you saying, hey, I had to realize, you know what, I'm messed up, and she's only responding to what I am, what I'm displaying. It's almost like I'm like a mirror effect, if you will. And you took the time to put in the work. And it doesn't surprise me that the atmosphere shifted, because I mean, there's actually a spiritual guidance to that. It's like, as the leader of the home, as the man of the house, your how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself, oftentimes will dictate the tone of everybody else. And so I loved how you pointed out was you got more benefit in just working on you than you did trying to have this back and forth debate, if you will. And I think that was so powerful of a statement that you made, and definitely a lesson that we all can benefit from, those of us who are in our respective marriages and wondering why things maybe aren't going the way that we think that they should be going, and we're having these senseless, crazy arguments, and if you will. a lot of times we have to take that pause and say, what am I, where am I at? Where am I at? I mean, because I can't be the husband that my wife needs me to be. She can't be the wife that I need her to be if we don't have ourselves together. If we don't, and having ourselves together is not about being perfect individuals. We're still human, but just dealing with the stuff, like you said. If there's some unresolved hurts, some pain, some things like that, stuff that could go all the way back, as you stated, all the way back to childhood that we just never
Yes.
dealt with, And
Right.
so, if that's true, and we know that that's true, then what are we doing to deal with that? I know that for years, I know coming up, things like the conversation of therapy and coaching and things like that, that was for the crazy people. That was for the people who something was wrong with them. Well, guess what? Something is wrong with you, and you need that kind of help. You need to be selective as to where you
Yes.
get the help from. You don't want to just go to anybody,
Right.
because as you shared earlier, Chad, there's a whole bunch of people out there on stages and platforms and online or whatever, saying that they're the experts, saying that they're, the master of being able to understand it, but they haven't been through anything. They don't know what those experiences are like, and they've just mastered what to say, to basically make the buck, but not
Right.
necessarily being
Entertainment.
really relatable because they haven't experienced anything. They haven't gone through anything, or in some instances, because I was actually at a men's conference just this past weekend, and the person who led the conference, I remember she was saying about how there's so many of these quote unquote motivational speakers, gurus, or whatever on stage, and they're bleeding on stage. They sound like they're saying all the stuff, but inside they're bleeding. They're not even equipped to be on that stage to be talking to people because they got so much unresolved stuff that's going on with them, and that's just not a good thing. Eventually, you can't keep bleeding in front of everybody and keep on being able to cover up. Eventually, it's going to show. It's going to reveal itself. It's going to come out. As you said,
Exactly.
whether we try to drink it away, whether we try to party it away, while we try to hold it in, not talk about it. Eventually, there's going to be a point where it has to come out. And unfortunately, the
And in
people
a marriage, it will.
they
But
it
see, in
comes
the
out the
marriage,
most
yes.
against
In
is
a
the people
marriage,
who are closest to us, especially in a marriage.
yeah.
I'm gonna
That's
be
right.
more likely, or
Yeah,
my
you.
spouse is gonna be more likely. We're gonna be more likely to go off on each other, and we're not even the reason for the hurt. It was something before we even met
Right.
Right.
that we just never
Right.
Yes.
dealt
And
with. So
we were never taught how to
And
identify
right.
what's going on. That's what I'm saying. Like
We
even her when she accepted to get married, and then it kind of hit her like, oh, hold on, what did I just do? I love this man, but I'm not ready. Right? Just
yeah.
like I missed the timing. Right? We missed the timing. It wasn't that we were wrong about each other. We were wrong about the timing, but we didn't listen to any of that, and
Right.
we just went with that,
Because
and
we
it
just heard
caused
like
so many problems.
I heard the word no, like no, you shouldn't marry, and I'm like, but I didn't listen to everything else. I kind of tuned everything else out
mhm.
instead of listening to like, no, you shouldn't marry him right now. Like I didn't say you shouldn't marry him, I just say you shouldn't marry him right now. And I didn't realize that what they were trying to do was just help me learn more about me. I didn't know me as well as I should have. I was too young to even know who I was, and I already had a kid. So then you're getting pregnant with a second kid. You don't even know who you are. And now you're bringing two more humans into this world. And now you're talking about being married to another human. And
And you
even though
want
I
peace.
know that you slept with him and made a baby, that doesn't mean you need to marry him. And I can say that now, right? Almost 20 years of marriage, being an adult, I can say, like, no, that's not smart. That wasn't intelligent at all. And I'm always trying to help young ladies understand that if you find yourself first, your mate will find you.
Mhm.
If
Mm,
you find
Yeah.
yourself, or your mate will find you.
mm,
You have to do nothing, absolutely not
yeah.
one thing, but just be you. And being you means being God. It's literally walking like God. That's all you have to do, because you are just an illustration of who God is here on earth. That's all you're doing.
Yep.
And so you just keep finding yourself in God, and you and God keep walking, and you're just in la la land, not even thinking about your boyfriend or husband, fiance, none, that, no titles, no labels. Don't think about none of that. Just keep focusing on you, keep working on you, and then everything else for you will work it to yourself to you.
And that mirror effect, I just want to point this out. It works, and this is why having a relationship with God, however you want to. I don't know I know that some people are like, well, I'm spiritual and I don't do it. Whatever you call it, right? Whatever you call it, that connection with the source of all, right? If she is a mirror to me, right? And she shows that. What do you think I'll be to God if I have a strong relationship? A mirror. So now that is what I will be demonstrating and showing through my actions, through my words, through my thoughts, my intentions.
That's right.
It's really hard to have drama and darkness in a situation where people are emitting light and beauty and something that's wholesome and pure, right? And so I want to just leave that thought here because that's why it's so important to have that relationship in your marriage, so that way you both can reflect that to each other.
Exactly. That's it right there. That's the very essence of why you have to have that presence of God in that marriage. I mean, like I said, your marriage shifted because you were reflecting more of God in you. She was able to see that. Your kids were able to see that. It shifted the atmosphere in the household. But if all that mirror is showing is the darkness and the craziness and the recklessness of life, then the response is going to feed off of that. It's going to
Correct.
it's going to feed what it sees,
Yes.
and that's just kind of how that thing navigates itself. And I thought it was interesting too, as you were sharing your story, even though it was an unfortunate event, of course, when you talked about your daughter having a stroke, you kind of alluded that event that kind of
Yeah, broke
brought a
everything.
pause because you were all running from the situation, and now you had something that you were both commonly connected to that you couldn't run from. This is our daughter. Even if
Yes.
we are at odds with each other,
We got to
our
come together.
daughter's not well. She's had a stroke.
Yes.
So it's like God allowed this event to come into play, not because he wanted to harm your daughter, but it was an opportunity to bring the two of you
Mm-hmm.
together and realize what's most important in life, kind of
Right.
get a new perspective. And you correct me if I'm wrong. If that's, I'm just, I'm interpreting that from what you said, that it was,
Yeah,
you
No, no,
needed
no.
that
I get what you
event
said.
to,
Yeah,
No, that is one thousand
yeah,
percent. It did because we were so selfish and so evolved in ourselves, right? We could. That's why we were fighting so much that we could not see past ourselves. Yeah, we were taking care of our children and making sure they fed and they ate and they were
yeah. We
loved,
weren't
right?
bad parents.
We weren't bad parents, but we were not great partners, with each
hmm
other. And our children saw that and they heard that and they experienced that. So when our daughter had the stroke, it enabled us the ability to just focus.
Be friends again.
Yeah, we
Because
were
we lost our
hmm
friends.
friendship.
Well,
See,
like
you
I
gotta
said,
understand, we lost our
we
friendship.
were not friends during that. I mean, we got married in 2004 and our daughter had a stroke in 2010. This time period, we were not friends at all. He was not the first person I called when something was going on. He was not the first person I leaned on. So there was so many clues into these years of just like the negative vibe, right? But the moment that our daughter had her stroke, we had to rely on each other. Our communication skills had to advance. I mean, it went from zero to like now
Expert.
perfect. I mean,
Expert.
we're learning
Yeah,
language
we're studying Google to
we're
find out what causes strokes
and how can we help her and what do we do to get her back to normalcy, whatever that looks like, and we just came. Then we had a baby, and we had a baby
right.
in the middle of this. I was 38 weeks pregnant when our daughter had a stroke, so we had
Yeah.
our third child. I was 38 weeks pregnant. We were in a foreign country, by the
Oh yeah, I
way.
didn't
We
finish.
were in
Yeah.
Germany in a foreign country, and it was during Christmas time.
It's like
So
worse.
it was a
Worst time.
lot during that time. But let me tell you something. That's when we rallied together and
Because
we
we
knew that it was us again. We like looked at each other
yeah.
and we didn't have no words. We just knew that, oh, this is what this is like. This is like God showing you like, hey, I'm in charge.
We had
I
to
always say
depend on
that.
yeah. We
Like
had to
he's in charge of every single milestone, every single thing that happens is orchestrated.
yeah.
So he just said, I want you to hear, and I'm gonna move you over here. And I swear I believe in that. And I believe God goes, this person is gonna show up here, and this is gonna happen here, and this is what I want happen here, and this is what I want you to do. And I need you. This is what he's telling us. If you hear nothing else on this podcast, if I can tell you nothing else, God's in control of every single thing on this
Everything.
planet. There is nothing that we can do to make something happen, and there's nothing we can do to kind of stop it.
Just
Understand that.
accept.
Just accept it all. Because
Just
when
accept
you
it.
can see everything is the will of God, you'll never have a problem another day of your life.
Amen.
Even the things that you don't like, it's not about whether you like it or don't like it. This is the will of God. This was supposed to happen for whatever the reason is, right? You can accept that. But this stroke, it caused us to start working together.
Yeah.
It caused the communication to come back. That friendship was formed. But, I think the biggest thing is it showed us that the things that we were fighting for were small.
Yep.
They weren't worth the time, the breath, the mental anguish that we were putting each other through.
Mm-hmm. The anxiety. Yeah.
It puts it in perspective. It's kind of like what astronauts, when they see the Earth, right? And they have that effect. I can't remember what it's called, but they have this effect where they're like, oh my God, right? The Earth, everything else is so, and all of our problems seem so small when you can see things from a bigger lens. And our daughter did that to us, and next thing you know, we developed this relationship, and just every day, just grinding and doing what we had to do, we just fell back in love, right?
And we had another moment and had another baby.
Yeah. About
A year later.
That's our fourth.
That's our fourth one. So now we have 4 kids, okay? And we were done. But, even through that, it was another moment. And even though it's like he always calls it a peach, or it gets sweeter and sweeter. The mango gets sweeter and sweeter over time. It did. And it is. Yeah. But, man, let me tell you, we still had a lot of moments that we had to go through. Yeah. Because every moment of evolving is another hurdle, is another challenge you're going to go through. So you think, oh, I just got through that one. Oh, I'm doing good. Oh, I'm going therapy, and I've talked to them about my past, and I'm dealing with them, and I've dealt with that, and, I'm kind of healed from that. Here's something else. Yeah. Yep. Understand that there is always something else. And if you don't have a strong partner that you know 1000% that no matter what, they got your back, and you don't know how to communicate, and you don't know how to put God first, and you don't know how to love yourself first, because you cannot love yourself first. If you don't love yourself first, you can't love somebody else. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. The reason that I should have not married him when I was 21 is because I did not love myself first. I shouldn't have married him at 25, right? Because I didn't love myself then. I did not start loving myself for years, not until I healed myself. And so until I healed myself is when I started loving myself, which then made me fall in love with him even more, because I love myself. So when I loved myself, then I saw him and I saw God, and we were all just entwined into one. And if you can catch that, that's the most important part of a marriage, is finding yourself, loving yourself, and then liking yourself, and then doing the same thing to your partner.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. So I'm curious to know, with the two of you, as you know, in marriages, there are going to be moments and times when, as husband and wife, we simply don't see eye to eye. Sometimes we might not see eye to eye just because we have a difference of opinion about a particular subject matter or whatever. But then there are going to be those moments where there's a decision that has to be made. It may be some type of major decision that has to be made, but we're on completely opposite ends as to how we think the solution, the way to go needs to take place. So what I'm curious to know from the two of you is, how do you two work out your circumstances when you find yourself at an impasse? Lanell, you on the way on one end, Chad is on another end on this. We got to make a decision. This is not one of those things that we can just agree to disagree. A decision has to be reached, but we're not seeing eye to eye on it. What works best for the two of you when you find yourself in that moment and being able to ultimately come to a decision that's going to be work best in whatever that situation is?
One, I want everybody to understand that the plan is not the goal. The goal is the goal, right? So why am I going to get hung up on a plan? That's not the goal. But so many times, that's exactly why we're fighting. Mm-hmm. That's why we're not fighting because the plan did or did not work. We're fighting because I felt like a left would have got me to Grand Central Station faster than the right. Okay? And that was my plan. And daggone it, you better do my plan because it's my plan. We don't even have a why behind the plan, right? I know this is the way, right? And a lot of times that's why there's so much struggle with these decisions. One of the things that I would constantly remind everybody is focus on the goal. It doesn't matter how you get to the goal as long as you get there. So if we can do that and bring our humble level down, it's not Burger King, man. It's not always just my way or always her way. We are a team. And maybe this is the military that kind of brought this out of us, but we are able to, one, you remember I told early in the thing I talked about being understanding, right? Having an understanding of the whys behind our partner. This is where this comes in the most. And this is why communication is important. Okay, we sit down. This is what's going on. This is where we're trying to get. This is what's happening. We have to make a decision. Here are the factors, and we can lay it all out, right? And now it's not about my way or your way.
Correct.
It's what's the best way.
That's it.
We come together as one, and that's what we try to do. Are there times that we get heated and we walk away? Yeah, but not as often anymore. Now, back in the day when we were, this is an ego thing too. A lot of times it's the ego because let's all be honest. If the goal was reached, is anyone going to be sad?
Come on.
Probably not, because we got what we came here to get, right? Whatever that is. So it's really just the ego that we need to remove from the situation, all right? And this is, again, an individual process, okay? I have to look at, I can't change her.
Right.
Here's the thing, and man, we probably preach this 100 times a week, right? She is her own person. She is going to grow, make decisions, all on her time, the way that she wants to do it. I can only manipulate my decisions, my actions, my thinking, me. And so that's what I have to first fall back on and say, okay, let me remove the ego. Why is this bothering me? Okay, and then get to understand, well, why do you want to go left to Grand Central Station? Oh, well, I was checking this, and maybe they'll have facts. Oh, I didn't know there was traffic if we went to the right. Yeah, let's go left or whatever, right? And so now now you couple understanding of why they want to do it this way, because my ego is not in the way. I'm not fighting and I'm not resisting at their opinion. Let their truth be their truth and accept that and then process it. But they have to do the same thing if you rebuttal. Right. Because you might say, yeah, okay, but if we take a left, I know that one light's about 5 minutes long. I don't want to get stuck behind that, right? And so then now you're starting to brainstorm together to formulate a plan for that moment using both of your minds and your resources. It works. It works. If we can remove that ego and just start really communicating to achieve the goal and not to pet our own egos, we would do well.
I love that. Focus on the goal, not to say that the process isn't important, but like you said, if we put too much emphasis on that process, a lot of times our egos kind of creep in. And instead of us saying, okay, here's what we're trying to achieve, hear both sides to the situation. And the reality is that in every marriage, there's going to be certain things that the husband has some strong suits in, and there's going to be some things that the wife is going to have some strong suits in. So if Lanell is a little bit more knowledgeable in this particular situation on the circumstance, even if my ego wants me to have that move to make, let's do it this way, I might have to defer to her this go around because, if it's an issue about money and she's the money person and I'm usually not really good at the money, then why would I be debating with her about the best plan of attack on a financial matter when she's the strong one in that, but it could be a total, another subject, another situation. Chad might be the one that's strong in that, in organization or whatever. And that might not be your gift, so we need to identify where those strengths are. So that way, as you stated earlier, we can come up with the best plan. And I think if you have that kind of approach, like you said, there's going to be some times when one person, quote unquote, wins the decision and the way to go, and then there's going to be some other times when the other person wins. But it doesn't have to be it's going to be my way or the highway. It's going to be because I said so, or things like that. Because then now you've isolated that spouse to where they don't feel like they have a voice on anything, even if they come to the table with the strengths and the skill sets. We don't want to ever be dismissive of one another and thinking that we know everything and that the other one knows nothing, because that's just not true. So
because the win is when you reach whatever the goal is, so that's the
right.
win, right? So that's the win. So we know that's how we took that out, right? my way, of course, was the best way. You let that go,
And,
and you'll be all right.
and the other thing is like, let's say you go with, your partner on a decision and it doesn't work out maybe the way that y'all planned it out. Things kind of go sideways. The other thing is not beat them up. Well, you
Mm-hmm.
had done it my way.
Yes.
One, your way might not worked out either, right?
Right.
The point is that this happened, and again, we can go back to what we just said. If everything is God's will, this was the direction that we needed to go. We're here for a reason.
That's right.
So now let's find out why we're here. My wife has got me to a point where I am constantly solution oriented with everything that we do. Everything. So I show up, I made a decision, I'm here. I committed to that decision. We're here. Okay, why am I here?
That's right.
Why am I here? There's a reason. God brought me. God doesn't take us where we want to go. He takes us where we need to go.
Yeah.
And if we can start coupling that with God's will and all of these little factors that we've been talking about throughout this podcast, man, you embrace those and implement them in your marriage, and things will change drastically.
Absolutely.
It was our daughter's stroke that really helped us, really helped me start saying that. Like, I'm going to be solution oriented in everything I do. And just really, because there's going to be so many challenges and lessons brought to you, And so just find it. Just find the light. That's the lesson. Find the light, the lesson, the light, and everything. And then you'll be able to see what God was trying to teach us. And that's how, if you live life that way, you learn every single day. You will teach yourself and you will grow so much every single day. If you stop saying, well, it was supposed to be like that. And God's like, I didn't want it to be like that. I don't want it to be like that. Pay attention, right? That's why you open your eyes and you start being way more self-aware of everything that happens, because now you're starting to see everything for what it is, right? You call yellow, yellow. You're like, oh, I was supposed to go right because that makes sense. My tummy, something here is saying go right, so I'm going to go right. And that's God, like, yeah, because if you went left, you would have got there, but you would have ended up this would have happened when you went right. And look what happened. You went right there. See, that's the concept that we're trying to teach people, that you have to let go. Stop all the conditioning that we're all taught. All of us are taught that. And so stop letting the conditions go. Stop just taking heed. Find out who you are, and you have the answer within inside of you. Everything in life, everything.
If God is within you, right, and God is everything around us, then everything you need is within you.
Everything.
The problem is that we're too lazy to look within us. We would rather look on the TV or have somebody else tell us the answer, but there's no growth in that.
And that's not. And the thing is, they don't have the answer. That's supposed to be for you.
Right.
Right. You don't even have answers for me. That's what I don't think people understand. Like, I'm so connected to him, right? And when I say this, I'm not taking anything away from you or our relationship. But what I am trying to say is, like, what God has in store for Lanell is only for Lanell. Only. Now, what he has in store for Chad and Lanell to do together, that's mighty. That's amazing, right? But what he has just for me, can nobody get. And so understand that too. That's the dynamic of how God works.
Absolutely. Great insight on that. Love everything that you just said on here. And again, just want to reemphasize it again. Even when a decision is made, and let's just say it sides with the direction of one spouse over the other, the importance of supporting that decision, regardless of how it plays out. If it ends up not turning out the way that you hope, it's really important as couples that we don't throw that in the face. Yeah, I see. Yeah. Don't do that. That's not productive. That's not healthy. Again, everybody falls short. Everybody, doesn't always get it right every single time. So you don't want to get into that habit of again, throwing that in people's faces, particularly your spouses, and using that against them as your justification, for not going in their direction or following their advisement on a matter. That's just not a good thing to do. So glad you pointed that out as well. So, when we're talking about a subject like this, the whole concept of marathon of marriage, the reality is that we live in a world today where marriages are just not lasting. And it's unfortunate. We know God created marriage. It's a special relationship that's not like no other. But nevertheless, we got people who, for a variety of reasons, are just throwing in the towel. They're giving up. They just don't want to endure the marathon. They just want everything to be smooth and perfect throughout. and they're just not prepared to operate for the long haul. And so, with that said, I know for a fact that having a conversation like we're having today, that there's going to be somebody online, listening to our podcast episode, that they're ready to throw in the towel. They're ready to give up. Something is going on or hasn't been going on for some time. They're over it. This may be the deciding factor tonight. Listening to this podcast, listening to our discussion, that they're going to make the decision whether or not to stay or go. So, with that said, if the two of you had an opportunity to speak to those couples out there that are ready to just call it quits, what would be your encouragement, your words of advisement to them as to why they need to reconsider and hang in there, even in the midst of the storms and the challenges that they might be facing?
I think here's the thing, right? You are with this person for a reason. You got with them for a reason. You got married for a reason. And stuff is going to happen, right? As we've just discussed this entire podcast, things happen. And it's easy to start looking at your partner like an enemy rather than as the person that you fell in love with. And I think that that's what I would recommend everybody doing, right? Is trying to, as my wife would famously say, find that reason why you chose them in the first place. Mm-hmm. Let's get back there. A lot of times that's lost. It's lost with the responsibilities and the stress and pressures of life and having a family and kids and all the stuff that goes with this thing, right? But there is a factor. There is a reason that you chose that individual. And I would encourage you to go back and find that, because just like our story, there were moments that it didn't look good. And if you had to listen to everybody watching, they would have said, matter of fact, everybody thought that we were going to fail. Everybody. I'm pretty sure they had like bets out, right, on when we would fail. And what I would tell you is that we outlasted all of them. All of them got divorces.
Funny.
Okay? And it wasn't because we are somehow super special.
Right.
Or, I don't know, have this X factor, right? We got back to the friendship. Mm-hmm. We got back to why we chose each other. And then every day we continued to choose each other based on that, not because of this moment that might be hard. Again, if you base everything on your feelings, your whole life is going to be a hot mess.
Amen.
There has to be a point in your life where you graduate from that and say, no, I'm in control. And this is the difference between reacting and responding. When we're immature, we react to life. When we mature, we respond to life. Okay? Mm. If you have a relationship with God, then you will respond. Mm-hmm. You will be able to see things in a bigger picture. Maybe not exactly like God sees it, right? But much clearer than maybe a lower self would, right? And you're able to make better decisions and stick it out, because here's the thing. You know that mango that keeps getting sweeter and sweeter? We have it. 40-year marriages have it. 50-year marriages have it. But they didn't get it by quitting. They didn't get it by being in their feelings all the time. They got it by loving each other, choosing each other every single day, and learning from the experiences. Learning. Not looking at everything like it's bad or good. Look at everything as a lesson. If it's good, it's a lesson. Because the good things don't last either, y'all.
That's right.
So why are you banking on that? Right? They come and they go. That is life. The only constant is God. That is the only thing on this universe that doesn't appear and disappear, birth, death, all that process. That is it. God, right? So if you can connect to the constant, then you can bring that constant into your life, into your marriage, okay? And I guess I'm saying all that to say don't give up, because you can have the 40-year marriage. But you have to be willing to put in the work. And it's not always going to be easy or pretty. It's not a walk in the park. But I'm telling you, you will be one tough couple. You will be that couple that everyone looks to right? For strength, for wisdom, because you were willing to choose each other and stick it out with each other. Because that, man, you're gonna learn. You don't get wisdom from school. You get wisdom from life.
Yes.
You get wisdom from going through. All right. I can know all about the waves, but I will never know more about the waves than the person who surfs them. Okay, because they're out there feeling it, dealing with it, having to adjust it. They are one with that water. Become one, right? In this marriage, become one in your relationship with God, and everything will flow.
Amen.
Love that.
Amen.
I'm gonna add a part two to this question, and I'm gonna direct this to you, Lanell. When you think about even with what you guys do with your marriage coaching, I'm sure this comes up from time to time. Um, is there a deal breaker situation that, you know, somebody says, if this is going on in your marriage or if this has happened, you might need to consider the possibility of parting ways if this has occurred? Is there what are those, what would the deal breaker be? Because there's somebody again that's listening and saying, well, you don't know what's going on in my marriage.
I know.
And I don't, if I don't feel like because this happened or this is going on, you know, I'm not so sure. It's just we should just work this thing out. What would you say in your professional opinions and just your personal experience opinions is the deal breaker moments where if this is going on, then you might need to consider
Yeah.
taking some alternative methods
Yeah,
here.
for sure. For us, it is infidelity. For us, but not at first. Not at, but not at first. No, I'm talking about the continuance cheating. The person that's continuous cheating. No, I don't think anybody. No, I know for sure. I don't even need to say think. I know nobody deserves that. I always say that yes, you can come back from infidelity in a marriage. We did in ours. But the other part is physical abuse. When it comes to physical abuse, I know that the first time you should be out. I don't believe anybody should stay in physical abuse, regardless if it's a man or woman. So he could be getting beat, right? A lot of people like always look for a man to be thinking, but no, she could be beating him, or she could be emotionally beating him, right? That's another cause. That's a real thing. Emotional abuse is another abuse. And so for me, it's more of like abuse. Abuse for me is a no-go. That's a no-go. I think, but even then, I'm always positive to believe that people can come back. Because at the end of the day, if you are being the abuser, there's something going on with you, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't change who you are. That could have been just a moment for you. And I'm not saying it's right, but what I am saying is that person could change who they are, and they could jump in a relationship with somebody else and never do that again. They could turn around and they could get healing for themselves and turn around and ask for forgiveness for their wife and then never do it again. So I will never say that even in being an abusive relationship, that can't be healed with time, with God. Even with that,
we separated on more than one occasion. We separated the one time for Iraq, and then we separated again. And so sometimes divorce isn't always the first step, right? If there is, all right, let's say that it's abuse, right? Like mental abuse or something like that. You can create the separation, create an environment where you're starting to get help for yourself, and you can see the response that your partner gives to the change, right? You stay firm and, hey, I'm going to live a life of peace. And if you can't get on board with that, I guess you won't be entering this relationship again with me, right? And you create that, and you're not divorced. You're giving room, right? You're giving room for healing, for those things. Now, there's got to be a line. There has to be a line. You can't just beat somebody an inch of their life and expect for them to, want to. I'm sure you could, right? But it would be very, very difficult for somebody to want to rebuild a relationship with somebody who, tried to
for sure,
kill them or something, right? So there has to be a line. And what I would encourage everybody to do is write down your non-negotiables. Write down what you want out of your relationship. You see, we can't answer not knowing your specific situation because everything's unique, right? And sometimes a heart issue can change an entire relationship. Just one one encounter, one right encounter, one right move can change someone's heart and change their entire life, right? And they can be, complete package after that, right? So you want to be careful not to just throw away a relationship, right? Just because it's hard or just because things are so we're always advocating for that. But I would write these things down and write down the type of relationship that you want, and then on the next sheet, write down what is. What part of these non-negotiables is your partner crossing? Or what lines? And how long has this been going on? And why do you continue to let them? A lot of times, the only reason that they're doing this is because they know that you'll let them.
Oh, yeah, because you ain't got no boundaries.
Right? And so if you can establish boundaries during maybe a separation time, maybe establish a little more backbone in what you'll tolerate or not tolerate, a lot of times that even gets some act right from the partner, right? And so there's little things that you can do instead of just throwing it away. You can mend it if you're willing to put the time in. A lot of times you can mend it, but there does have to be an exit point if they're not going to change, and that has to be really up to you. How much are you willing to endure before you say, okay, this abuse or this extreme behavior is no more, right?
But that would be hard for me to sit here and try to tell somebody that you should leave a marriage due to whatever circumstance, that you're in, even though I would suggest if you come to me that you should leave if you're getting beat. But at the same time, I never want to, if somebody says, I'm totally in love with my husband and he was not like this and, he went off to Iraq, right? And he saw war and this is this and this. And I've known men, that have completely changed when they came back from war. And so because of those experiences I've had, right, I know how people can change by other experiences that they've been in. And so how could I say, I know this great guy, but he had this situation happen to him and now he's different, that he can't be a great guy again? This might be just a moment. So I'm never going to say, even like I said, even in abuse, even in cheating, infidelity, that it can never.
We came back from cheating. But what I'll say is, both people have to be willing to be invested in the growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I again, this is why this is so hard, because you don't know another person's heart,
Right.
But if you're in that relationship, you should be trying to find out their heart, right? Where is their heart at? What are they? How invested are they in this relationship? Are they willing to do the work? Are they willing, even if it's a little bit? A lot of times, if you can celebrate just one small win, that will light them up to want to do more. So, that's a tough question.
It is. It really is.
And I knew it was going in. It's one of those things where, but it's a tough question, but it's a question that oftentimes comes up when people are talking about parting ways. And so I like the fact that you spoke to the importance of establishing boundaries really out the gate. I think that those kind of conversations need to be had. What are my non-negotiables? I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
This would be a problem. And that may be the best way to say it. Instead of saying I can't deal with something, it's got my boundaries. This would be a big problem for me if we ever had this situation come into our marriage. If whether it be infidelity, whether it be abuse of any kind, I would have a very difficult time processing that. I'm not going to take the approach of never say never. If a situation like that happens, that we can't come back from that. But I am letting you know that you are really treading the line, if you will. Now, everybody's not going to process it. There are going to be some people who, if you ever cheat on me, I'm out.
Yeah.
If you ever hit me one time, I'm out.
And you know what? They have the right to have that standard for themselves enough to say that I'm valuable enough to know that I'm enough. I'm enough. And that if this wasn't working for you, you should have been mature enough to come to me and have a conversation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of you just deciding to go outside of this home, and now you bringing something inside of my home, whether it's physically, right? But still, now you bringing emotions and you bringing that space and that energy into our home. So all of that plays into it. So that's why it's really important that you know yourself more than anything else, because then you'll know what you will tolerate
Right.
and
There
what
you
you
go.
won't tolerate,
That's
and
perfect.
you'll know that from the
Yep.
jump, and they will know that from the jump,
Yes.
because you so clear with how you walk, how you talk, how you move, that they know that there's no way that you're going to tolerate anything other than the best.
And
And when they know that, then that's all they go. The game is the best. Everything I do for her, everything I do for him is the best, because I want the best for myself. So why wouldn't I do that for somebody else? That's why I said, if
Mhm.
you love yourself enough, the other person is just getting the blessing of the receiving part of what
Yeah.
you
just the
are able to
overflow.
extract from yourself.
Like you said, when I know myself and when I love myself, as you said earlier, the the one who's meant to be for me, they're gonna find me because
Yeah.
I'm it's displayed. It's sort of a, if you want to call it an anointing, if you will, a covering. It's just going to be something about how I present myself that it's going to be clear, even without you even having a much of a conversation with me. It's going to be clear the
Right.
way I conduct myself. That,
Yes.
oh, this is not that type of girl. This is not that type of guy that I can come
Yes.
at with that. It kind of, so you'll not only draw in potential applicants, if you will, but you'll also repel the ones that they'll
Yes.
be like, nah, she's
Come on,
no,
Sheenie.
I
I ain't got a
can't.
chance. Nope.
I mean, when I met my wife, I mean, I was, I knew very early on after a few conversations or whatever, I knew that if I wanted to have anything of meaning with her, that she wasn't going to be that one that was going to be the casual, you know, somebody that you met at the club or whatever. It
Yeah.
was, at some point you were going to have to be either all in, or you might as well just move on because she's not going to
Yes.
be just, the, hey, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, can I come through, or
Right.
just that random, that wasn't going to be. You kind of know, but
Yep.
it was the way she carried herself that let me know up front who I was dealing with versus somebody else
Mm-hmm.
might not display that. Establishing those boundaries, letting it be clear what you will and will not tolerate, but always having a mindset, I think, going into a marriage that, you know, that spouse may fall short, you might fall short. And just like you're going to want the opportunity, if you are the one who happens to fall short, just like you're going to want to have the opportunity to perhaps be able to redeem yourself, to be given that second chance, whatever that situation it is, a thing that you did or thing that you said that might have been hurtful, that might have been, devastating to the other spouse. You want that to be, that opportunity to be there for you to right the ship. So you kind of have to have that same kind of vibe for the other spouse as well.
That's right.
Now, again, there are limits. I mean, like you stated earlier, when it comes to physical abuse, I'm with you in the sense that I'm not saying that if physical abuse arises in a marriage, that there's no way to bounce back from that. But I do like the idea of what you spoke about, that this is one of those situations where separation is good. To
Mm-hmm.
if to remove you from the danger, so that the two of you can decide, okay, you
Right.
don't put your hands on me.
Yep.
This crossed that boundary line. Where are we going with this? Are
Mm-hmm.
we going to work on fixing this so this does not become a repeat offense, or
Right.
do we just need to go our own way now? And
Right.
and and I think, as Chad said earlier, it requires that if you do say no, we want to work this thing out, it requires that both people are working it out. You can't just have the wife working it out and the husband, he don't want to go to the
Right.
counselor, he don't want to do nothing or whatever, or
Right.
vice versa. He's trying to do everything to fix it, and she don't want to really do much of anything. You can't. You both have to be fully engaged, fully all in to make it work. Because if you're not all in, then yeah, as unfortunate as it would be, you may as well just go ahead and part ways because you both are not all in
Right.
and trying to make things right and trying to. And yes, it may take some time to recover from a infidelity. It may take some time if you don't put your hands on somebody to recover from that. But if you're sincere and true about trying to bounce back, there's always the possibility of that. But I would definitely, and I don't think you all are encouraging it either. If you are clear in present danger, nobody's telling you to
Yeah.
stay and
Right.
and,
No.
and risk, losing your life or something else tragic happening. Nobody's telling you to do that. But at the same time, with God in the mix, anything is possible to overcome,
Anything's.
even
That's right.
infidelity, even levels of abuse. That's always a possibility.
Just
So
I want to say this too. Just realize during the process, if you decide to stay with someone for whatever they did, understand that you cannot change them. There's this misconception, and I said it earlier, but I want to we've heard this how many times? Well, I know he's like this, but I know that I'm the one, and he's gonna change for me, I have this and this and that, and somehow you have these pipe dreams that the man that you've seen act a certain way is gonna somehow stop acting that way just for little old you, and that is usually an incorrect notion.
Yes.
Now, it's not that they can't change. I just want to reiterate that change comes from within that individual. They have to want to change. That you need to be looking for the signs that says, I am actively working on change, right? I am working. And again, celebrate the small things, right? He's always late. He shows up on time, or 1 minute, late this time instead of 10. Celebrate it, right? Because there's effort, right? When he would walk in 10 minutes late, not giving a rip, now he's showing up 1 minute late, sweating, like, I'm so sorry, apologize. That's effort, right? And so you congratulate that effort, and it's going to work in your favor as you're pursuing the healing process, right? Is encouraging that behavior shift in your partner. So I just want to throw that out there, but understand, don't stay because you think you're going to change them. Okay?
Right.
Don't do that.
And then why would you, and let me say this too, as you're saying that to yourself, or you're allowing your mind to say that to you, which is controlling you to think that, because it's not true. Think about this for a second. Why would I want him to change who he is for me? And that won't last. That won't last, because who I am right now is going to change. So he's going to change for me, who I am right now, and then I'm going to change again. So then I'm going to look for him to change again.
Right.
So he's always going to keep having to change for me, but he's never going to satisfy me, right? So you're always going through this whole cycle of
nothing he does will ever be good enough.
Not satisfying yourself. Come on. So when he changed for himself, as we go back to that real quick, when he changed for himself, he finally said, I'm doing the changes for myself. That's when I was like, oh, yes, God. Yes, God. Amen. I love all that. I love all that you're doing in him. Thank you. Keep doing it. It's now working. I see you shining through him, like the decisions he's making, the way he moves, the way he walks, the way he talks, everything about him just glooms that he is connecting himself to God. And that right there is who I would like him to change for, which is himself.
And
awesome.
I just want to throw one more thing. When we talk about divorce and leaving, I just want to throw some statistics out here, right? Because there's two factors in this divorce thing. There's, okay, this person is clearly hurting me physically, mentally, something like that, cheating on me, dogging me out, right? And okay, that's a pretty clear cut, this isn't the right person for me, right? And most people can say, all right, I don't want that. The other side of this is when we are the problem, but we won't accept that we're the problem. Okay, and here's what I want to point out. So first-time marriages have lower than a 50% success rate. So I think there's like 45 or 46%. I haven't checked it recently, but it's in the mid-high 40s, right, of success. So you're already at a disadvantage when you get married, right, statistically speaking. So this doesn't work out, and you're like, they're not the right person. They can't love me right. Okay, they changed. The muscles went away, right? Whatever. They started eating McDonald's after we got married, and now they got a belly, and I don't want that, right? And so you get a divorce. You're neglecting anything that you contributed to this divorce, and you get a divorce. Second-time marriages have a 60% chance of failing. But wait, there's more. So then we get out of the second marriage still blaming everybody else why this relationship won't work out. So I get married again. Third time, right? Third time's a charm. 70% of third-time marriages fail. 70%. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you're never looking at yourself and you're finding the same person just with a different face.
Amen.
Okay? You're attracting this. You can only attract what you are.
Yes.
So we've been saying this whole thing, but I'm going to just lay it out real clear for y'all, right? You want better, change yourself.
Yes.
You want a better relationship, change you.
Yep.
Lanell already told you. They'll find you. Okay? you won't have to worry about a first, second, third marriage where the chances of you finding something that's going to last the test of time gets slimmer, right? Because everybody's in it for the wrong reasons. They're not willing to take accountability, and you're in a pool full of people like that, okay? If you can start implementing these things and start changing who you are and start attracting the life and the reality that you want, and we're not saying that you're not going to have ups and downs and hurdles and growing pains, but you're going to have something that continually gets stronger over time rather than deteriorates over time, okay? And so it's very important that you become what you're looking for. Very, very important.
Love that. Love that. Wow. Well, this has really been a powerful discussion, not only in the sharing of your journey, but just talking about the big picture of it all in marriage. It aligns with what you all represent about, the bulletproof marriage. Doesn't mean you won't get shot at,
Yeah,
but can you withstand the hit?
That's right.
When it comes, are you wearing that bulletproof vest, if you will,
That's
so it doesn't
right.
kill you? You still get hit, but I'm not
Yes.
getting killed. My marriage is not, falling by the wayside because of a shot here or a shot there. I think that is so important to embrace, and the two of you are the epitome of that. And I appreciate the transparency and the genuine, authentic way that you've shared your story. I know I've been blessed. I know my listeners are going to be blessed. This was definitely a great way to end this marathon of marriage series on a high note, and just again capturing a whole nother perspective about why we really have to learn to fight for our marriages, and just be committed. Both partners have to be committed throughout, understanding that there are going to be some challenges, hurdles, things of that nature. But if God is in the mix of that marriage, if we're leaning on Him for that guidance and direction to navigate us through with our imperfect, raggedy selves, um, we stand the chance of having a long lasting loving marriage. We can be a living example for other couples, whether they actively make themselves known or they're just watching us from afar, being able to see the realness of it, the fact that no, they're not flawless, they're not perfect, but they're making it, and they're doing it in love and in commitment to one another, even in the midst of all the storms that come along the way throughout. There are going to be plenty of good memories, plenty of good times, but yeah, expect there to be some challenges. It is a
Yes.
marathon of marriage. So before I let you go, as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, we do want to take an opportunity to love on you, to celebrate you, to acknowledge you, to lift you up. So if you got anything exciting that's going on personally and or professionally that is happening now or coming up, please do share that with us. We want to celebrate you. We want to love on you. We want to put you up, uplift you and encourage you as well. So please do. What's in store for Chad and Lanell? What's in store for my bulletproof marriage? What we got going on
Well,
that we need to know about?
in October, we will be in Chicago. We are going to be in the Power of We Symposium. 750 inner city kids in Chicago, and we will be the onstage MCs. We're there to give life and hope to these kids.
Some love.
These kids are having to do unspeakable things just to get to school
Yes.
every day and to try to do the right thing, right? The odds are against these kids. And, we were invited, and this aligns with our heart. We love the youth. We believe in people. And we've both been through so much. We know that struggle is what you make it, right?
That's right.
It can make you great, or you can be a victim of it, right? And if we can teach these kids or impart just that to them, right, that you can create this to be something that makes you strong, makes you unstoppable. That's why we're there. But we're real excited. And if you are like us and want to be able to help kids, go to thepowerofwesymposium.com. And there's a ton of ways that you can help, whether it's donations. I think they need mentors. Okay, 750 kids, y'all, right? We need. They're doing a thing where they're actually going to bring in some rich kids with the poor kids, and they have to run simulations of money. So the rich kids are going to have to live on welfare and be simulated the life of an inner city kid, right? And they kind of get to flip-flop roles, and it's going to be a great experience for these kids. We're excited to be a part of it.
That's right.
And
we have our show.
Yeah, we have our show
Every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the E360 TV network. We are also on the radio on Wednesdays on the Evening Rush Network at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is it.
Yeah, and we do our coaching, but like, here's the thing: we have a Facebook group. It's My Bulletproof Marriages on Facebook. You're more than welcome to join. Just right now, our website is under construction, so don't go there because it'll one of those little weird codes. But if you want to contact us, you can either email us, or you can hit us up on Facebook through the group or individually. I have a profile; she has a profile, just under our names, and we would love to link up with you if you need some help. We love helping people. We do the first session for free, just to get a feel for us, a feel for your story, see if we mesh. Not everybody is meant to work together, right? And so we try to get that filling out stage for free, and then we move from there into sessions if it aligns. But we would love to help anybody that needs it. If not, we're just here to be a blessing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, I'm excited. Congratulations for what you have coming up at the your event in Chicago. That's my hometown where I grew up in, and so they definitely need that type of thing there. And so I'm happy about that, and just the work overall that the two of you are doing. It's not just a business. This is a divine assignment from God. He's allowed you to go through the experiences and the challenges that you've gone through to prepare you for this very moment, to not only pour into marriages, but to pour into young people. And I'm expecting it to expand even more beyond than what it already is right now. So, much blessings to the two of you. And I'm expecting nothing but greatness out of you. And I'm so thankful again that you took time out to be a part of this marriage series and be a guest on the podcast. Know that you have an open invite. You're welcome to come back again on the show. It's been definitely a pleasure meeting up with you, getting a chance to speak with you directly and making that connection. So, as I said earlier, I know I've been blessed by this, and my marriage. There are things I can draw from what we talked about that I can apply to my own marriage. I know my listeners have been blessed as well. So this is just really, really awesome. So. And to my listeners, if you've enjoyed our podcast today, the content that we've shared, just this whole marriage series that we've been on, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is what it's all about. We want to encourage, we want to inspire, we want to uplift, being raw and real, sharing our stories, being transparent, just letting you know that we all go through our storms, even in the mixes of marriage. We all go through our challenges, but we have a God that is the ultimate problem solver. He wants nothing but the best for us. He loves us unconditionally, and he's the creator of marriage. He wants us to use this gift of relationship that he's provided for us to enjoy as man and wife, and make the most of it, knowing that even in the difficult times, even in those moments and times when we want to give up, that he's there and he can help us navigate through that thing, and again, be living examples of what a marriage is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to function, because it is definitely a gift. It's definitely one of the most beautiful things that God has ever created, is the beauty of marriage. So if you have the opportunity to be a part of a marriage, you want to hold on to that thing. You want to fight through that thing as much as you possibly can to make it so. And even for those who maybe you've had a failed marriage before, maybe you've never done it before and you've had some hesitations, I pray that the information that was shared tonight, the transparency that was shared, will give you a new perspective, a new outlook on it, because it's definitely worth the journey. It's definitely worth the marathon that you'll go through. So, again, just take that, let that be your takeaway, meditate on that, pray on that. And I promise you, if you are right within yourself, you've learned to love you for who you are, as we've been talking about, dealing with your stuff and everything, and just being open and honest about that special one will find you. You won't have to take low. You won't have to settle. You won't have to, you won't have to take away anything from who you are as an individual. God made us all uniquely special and beautiful just as we are. And there's somebody out there for everybody. So with that said, again, remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. Specifically, fight for these marriages. Fight for your marriage. It's worth it. You didn't go through all of the changes and things that you've experienced in life for this thing to just be something that you passed through on. God intended for you to meet the person that you met, allow him to be an active presence in that marriage, and just watch not only the love that will come up out of that, but just the beauty and the blessings that will be in place for you as a married couple, as well as the blessings that you'll have an opportunity to bestow on others that are on the outside looking in and just observing the beauty of your marriage. So until next time, you take care of yourselves. Have a great rest of the evening, and I'll see you next time on our next episode.